Morning, sunshines. I'm back. It's Callie Carroll. We're going to talk about trust and also not liking what we're trusting in, because that happens sometimes. But before we do, say good morning, sunshine, hashtag GMS. Let me know if this is a rewatch later. I know I haven't been super consistent, so it usually is a rewatch because you guys used to be like, it's 8 a.m. and you had your alarm set, and now you don't do that. We'll figure that out later. Anyways, guys, good morning, sunshines. And what are you grateful for this morning? Talking about one of your gratitudes. I'm grateful for the cool morning air. It was only 52 degrees here in Colorado this morning, and it felt freaking fantastic to be outside playing with the dog, watching Wit and Bat. We had this little thing that's set up, and it was just so much fun, and it feels so cool and so good. So what are you grateful for? We comment in a section about that. And let's talk about trusting and perhaps not liking. And I'll do so in story form, as I usually do. So we had scheduled a family vacation. We've been thinking about camping. We love camping. Okay, back it up. Boom. Okay, our family loves camping. It's one of the major things that we've always done, right? We did it for my daughter's birthday, like her 11th, 12th, 14th, 16th, 17th. It's just like one of the things that our family does. And we usually end up planning our camping trips like in February, because if you're anywhere near where I'm at, like it takes you a long time. I don't know if you guys camp, but it takes a long time and some precision to try to actually get spots. Anyway, we were like, okay, let's do a camping trip this year. And then I was like, I don't know if we can. I have no idea. Good morning, Lori. I have no idea if it's a possibility with Witten's numbers, with where he's at. It's 3 hours away. Can we do that? So we ended up talking to our doctor about it. We reduced our number of chemo days, right? And the doctor was like, okay, so as long as there's a hospital that's this close, but if something goes wrong and if he ends up having a fever, you do need to drive the 3.5 hours to Denver, because then you know that you'll might likely be hospitalized there. So we're like, okay, we're going to make this happen. And here's part of this, you guys, because I know some of I have haters that follow me. Why do haters follow me? If you don't like what I have to say, don't follow me. Anyways, the haters, I'll just say my haters, because that is insidious. I have it, right? What they like to say is, why are you even trying to do anything if your son's going through a year of chemo treatments and he's neutropenic? Why would you even think about planning a camping trip? But here's the deal, you guys. Number one, you guys don't know those hater guys, right? You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know the situation, but I also have 3 other babies. I have a 4-year-old to think about, a 17-year-old to think about, a 19-year-old to think about, who's moving out, who's having this whole fear of loss of the family lifestyle. I have a lot of other people to consider, let alone my own mental health, right? So when this came up, even though I was resistant, I was like, yes, let's do a family camping trip. All right, so now we have this plan. We plan it around Whit and John's chemotherapy, so that's exactly when he's going to be at his highest numbers, so he's least likely to, catch anything with his neutropenia, as well as be hospitalized because of his numbers. So we're like, this is going to be perfect. And then it gets postponed. Chemo gets postponed. And I shared about this in a Haters Gonna Hate, right? I shared about this in a blog post too, but we got a puppy, and the puppy nibbled at Witten's ear because they were down on the floor wrestling, and then they had to postpone chemo a week. And when they did, it ended up screwing up so many plans, because we devise our life now around being able to be social and see human, doing these certain 2 weeks out of the month, and the other 2 weeks we just don't leave the house. So we had created all these plans, and as soon as we postponed the week, it jacked up all the rest of our plans. But it is what it is, right? So when we had the postponement, this was my reaction, all right? Because I believe even after a year, 13 months, 14 months of the shit show that our family has gone through, that God has a reason for what's occurring in our lives. That there's something to be learned from the situation, from the tears, from the stress, from the trauma, from the experiences. It doesn't mean that I like any of them, right? I mean, there are some people it doesn't mean that I like a lot of them, but it is something in my heart that there's a trust that this is happening for a reason. And throughout this time, especially as it's gotten much easier than the beginning stages of diagnosis, right? I've learned to lean into that even more. So as soon as chemo was postponed, and I came home and I talked to my husband, and he has the same attitude and perspective, right? We were like, okay, so what are we going to do about this? Number one, we had this whole thing in July. I don't even want to talk about that. How are we going to operate that? And then what are we going to do about camping? We want to try to push it back a week. You can't get reservations. We can't do that. The kids are going to be back in school. We can't cancel it because the bigs, all 3 of them, deserve to have some time too, right? They deserve to still get to enjoy experience as well. So my husband offered to stay home with my baby. And I offered to take not only my 3 children, but their additional 8 friends on a camping trip to Wyoming. Okay, so when I was pulling out, and this is what I just shared about, when I was pulling out, I did pretty good up to that day. But as we were pulling out to leave, I just lost it, you guys. I'm sitting here, I'm like, ugh. And I wasn't thinking, man, this is so unfair. I was just thinking, my God, my heart is so sad right now. I have not left my baby ever. And here I am pulling out, and my husband's going to be with him for the next 4 nights. I've never left him for 1 night. Not only that, but he's this lowest stage of his neutropenia where he bottoms out. And that's where you're like on guard the whole time. You can't leave the house. He couldn't leave to go grocery shopping. He couldn't leave to go anywhere, right? Unless it was to the hospital, while I was gone taking these now 10 children to the lake to have an experience with them. And my heart felt like a boomerang. It's like, oh my God, I'm it's so joyful that we get the opportunity to be with my big, so sad that I'm not home, and I could choose different feelings of anger or jealousy of others that I don't get to have that full family experience. But those emotions aren't going to benefit me in any way. So instead, I allow myself, and embrace those emotions of sadness as we were leaving. And my mom just looks at the back of the truck. She's like, are you doing all right? I said, I just need 30 minutes to just cry. And she's like, fair enough. And she's kind of crying and I'm crying. And I'm just letting myself be with the sadness of what it is, not dwelling in it, but just be with it. Right. And my son, my 4-year-old Quincy, grabs my hand and he's like, Mommy, it's okay. It's like, we get to play you get to play with me the whole time, I think is what he said. And my heart just melted. I'm like, he's so right, And after I didn't take 30 minutes. I took about 6 minutes, right, of my tears. And then I was like, okay, it's time to move on. Let's go. We're going to enjoy this experience together. And over the trip, I did have a couple ebbs and flows, of course, of missing my little one and checking on him. I don't do FaceTime because that just makes it worse, right? I would just check with my husband, make sure he's doing good. He did spectacular, by the way. Dad and him had a great time. He didn't even ask about me until 2 days later. And then they just said I was on a trip and he was like, okay, sounds good. Meanwhile, I got to play with all of my other children and their friends and enjoy the experience. And I just wanted to share this story because I know that we have different situations in our life that aren't ideal, where they frustrate us, right? Where you're like, well, it didn't used to be like this. I didn't used to have to do things like this. It didn't used to be so hard. Why do they get that experience? Why is it so simple and easy for them? Why are they so healthy? Whatever that is, right? And you can really get wrapped up in the negative emotion side of things. You can really choose to dwell in the anger and the hate and the aggravation and the frustration. But staying there and living there is a dark, shitty place to be. And I get it. I get that we slip into it sometimes because life does happen. But even upon that, whether it's the big thing of the diagnosis 13 months ago or just a family vacation to the lake where only half of us get to go, right? We get to choose. Do we want to sit here or do we want to, okay, I see that emotion coming through, but I'm going to choose to step over here. I'm going to choose to find the good in the situation. I'm going to choose to acknowledge and trust that this is happening for a reason right now and embrace all of the good things about it. And this could be something as simple as you got up this morning on a Monday morning and you're frustrated because X, Y, and Z happened and now you're late to work. But I don't know what happened on the road 15 minutes before when you were supposed to be there that now you avoided, right? You don't know why these little things occur to enable you to be at a certain point in your life, whether now or in the future. So if you can allow yourself to trust when things go wrong, when things go right, when things go left, when things go right, or right again, right, up and down, when you can allow yourself to trust during those times and embrace the positivity, any positivity that you can grasp onto during that time, you'll see how it might not be easy. You might not love what's going on, but you can find love in what's going on. Does that make sense? So we ended up having an incredible trip. Yes. Do I wish my baby was there? Absolutely. Do I wish my hubby was there? 100%. Would he have hated it? Yes. He would have hated. He wouldn't have wanted out of the camper. He doesn't like being in the heat. He would have wanted to be inside in air conditioning. We only had electric for part of the time. It would have been a shit show had he been able to go. Like it would have been, you guys, it would not have been good. It wouldn't have been enjoyable for anybody. Seriously, the trip would have been a disaster. So hindsight, right? Looking back, I know that the exact right decision was made and we were in the exact right spot. And he got to bond with his daddy at home. I got to bond with the Bigs there. And we all got to really be where we were at instead of trying to dote on the other situation because it wasn't working out together. So, all right, you guys, we always leave with like some sort of moving forward, right? I have to see, I could try to be a person today. Glad you, thank you, Miss Lori. We leave with a commitment, right? And if you guys choose to take action in these conversations, you are going to get more out of them. So I would just say, think about one thing that's going on in your life that's not ideal. Maybe you were late to work. You spilled on your shirt at breakfast. You don't like the job that you headed to today. Something maybe major is going on in your household and your life. And acknowledge, okay, I see that this isn't what I love. But if I can trust that it's leading me to where I'm supposed to be and look for the beauty around you, how can you shift in your personal joy and happiness? And just look at the situation. See if you have one there. Eric said he's committed. Eric knows he's a long timer. That's what we do if we're committed at the end. Thank you for being here, you guys. I love you. Good morning, Sunshines, and it is good to be back. I'm going to go get my eyelashes on because after camping, I have like 10 left. 10 eyelashes. Okay, love you guys. Bye.